Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Hi guys, Rick here. Before we get to this episode of Paddy's New Yacht, I'd like to talk briefly about gambling because it'll be discussed a lot on this show. Gambling is supposed to be fun and accoutrement to your sporting weekend. However, it can also be debilitating and ruin lives. If you find that your gambling gets in the way of work, school or other activities, causes mental or physical health issues, causes any issues in your life, gives you financial stress of any kind or damages your reputation, then gambling may be a danger to you. If you spot any of these signs in yourself, stop gambling immediately, consult problemgambling.ie for all resources that can assist you and help yourself before it's too late. And now, on to Paddy's New Yacht.
Former pro wrestler Rick Nash and former Paddy Power insider David Kent are not good gamblers. But they're sports fanatics who are determined to crack the code and make it rich on sports gambling or die trying.
This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
Follow them on their journey to eventual bankruptcy every Friday on the Low Blows Network with sports tips that made so much sense at the time in Paddy's New Yacht.
As the football season and Paddy's New Yacht season comes to an end, we get kicked off here on a very special finale edition of Paddy's New Yacht. Rick Nash in with Buzz.ie and the Daily Star's David Kent, as always. But as we get kicked off here, for the last show of the season, Dave, what football team would you compare your gambling and prediction season to?
My gambling season and my prediction season, actually, fair enough, they actually coincide with one of my real teams that I support in real life. I don't know what I'm talking about now because we're all in real life, but go on. Reading. My beloved Reading started off terribly. Looked like I was about to bankrupt myself before March. Looked like they were going to be caught in the relegation zone and heading down to League One. Like, notwithstanding the odd win that we both had around winter time, still wasn't good enough. But then March came around, and Cheltenham arrived, and Jose Gomez arrived at Reading. I finished 40 up from Cheltenham. Reading won 3 of their first 4 games under Gomez. Started picking up more wins to move away from the relegation zone, get themselves clear of everything. Ipswich, Bolton, Millwall, and teams were in a scrap. I finished 40 up for the week from Cheltenham, which was a solid setup for the rest of the year. Now, yes, we both had the odd bad week in the run-in, but then my other bread and butter came back into it, and that kept me afloat, and that was the League of Ireland. So, as it stands, on our last Paddy's New Year show, I'm about 10 up for the year, which is more than I had last year. And Reading are in the Championship next season, so hopeful. Life is hopeful.
I'm going to go with Juventus, which may seem like a bold claim, but I'm actually not complimenting myself that much. I started the year on an absolute tear. Couldn't be beaten. Yep. There you go. I had the season wrapped up before Christmas with the NFL predictions, absolutely fantastic and flying. Then it all kind of came apart towards the end. Complacency set in. I was doing hit and hope bets for the sake of it because I knew I'd already got it wrapped up. And then when it could have been a glorious treble winning season, Barcelona could also fit here. But when it could have been like a glorious treble winning season, finally everything's in place. I'm going to take home the Champions League title. I'm going to win it all here, guys. I was even the trendsetter. I was the early leader in the Low Blows Paddy's New Yacht Prediction League. But then it all just fell apart. I got complacent based on my early season success. And then it's like, yeah, you won, but it's not great. We're talking about making internal changes, like in terms of the gambling. Max Allegri's leaving Juve. I'm going to have to look at everything. I'm going to have to look at my system. I'm going to have to see, do we want to continue doing this system into the new season? So that's Juve for me. That's where I'm at. Guys, we have a really busy special week to round us off here for the year on Paddy's New Yacht. We're going to be going through the news as we always do. We're also going to be talking about the things we're looking forward to as we head into the summer. When we won't be doing weekly shows, but of course there's only one thing we can talk about at the top. That is the Champions League final. Liverpool against Spurs wrap up the most random, crazy season of Champions League football ever. We're going to try try and put some logic into this completely illogical season with a final that looks like just you'd be better off just fucking drawing straws at this stage with the final and the teams we're getting in it. But we're going to try and give our assessments and give our predictions ahead of it. Also as well, big week for me. NBA Finals get kicked off. Toronto against the Golden State Warriors. I'm going to be giving you everything you need to know because, look, football is pretty much over after this. In terms of the regular week, day-to-day, week-to-week football, it's pretty much done. There's going to be a void in all of our lives. For the next 2 weeks at least, you can keep an eye on the NBA. You can become a fan for the finals, and it is a great finals. I'm going to be giving you everything you need to know so you could start watching. They begin tonight, late night tonight. So you can start watching if you like, and then you have something to kind of tide you through the summer while football is away, while Paddy's new yacht is away. So we're going to be talking about all that still to come. But first, we're going to get kicked off one last time this season with the news and what we do. We've had a few weeks off, so what we do is we package together the 5 biggest stories that we want to discuss about things that have happened and things that are coming up, and we call it the 5 and 5. 1 minute on the clock per story. In theory, we never go a minute though, and it gets underway now because since we last spoke, Man City defeated Brighton 4-1 in a dramatic final day of the Premier League, and Watford 6-0 to emphatically complete a domestic treble. Are we looking at the most dominant side of the Premier League era in Pep Guardiola's City now?
I mean, statistically, yes, because over 76 league games, they dropped 30 points, which is just insane. On the pitch, yeah, look, they can easily destroy anyone and did at a lot of times this season. I don't know, I can't think of another side who were as, just comfortable, particularly last season. This season, of course, they had Liverpool, and they still won the league with 97 points. But, in the year before last season, I think people forget that they just completely destroyed everyone in their way in the league. Didn't really do as much elsewhere, but then they completed the treble this year, and the next step is Europe. Presumably that's what Pep really, really will look at next season. Obviously they'll want to do 3 in a row because I can't remember. I think is it only the United side in the 90s maybe have done that. I don't think they managed to do it in the 2000s. So that's the next one for City. And if they do that, then there is only one answer to this question. But right now for me, they're up there, and I can't think of anyone better.
The only team I can think of in a regular season, because again, you have to look at it and if we're talking dominance, you're talking, did they run away with the league? And we've seen Man United under Ferguson do that a few times, but at the same time, you have to weigh up the balance of competition, and you're getting Liverpool with 97 points, which would have won 90% of Premier Leagues, and City were able to hold them off. Every week, Liverpool kept doing the job and doing enough to continue to keep in contention. Every week, City kept topping them, and City kept keeping 1 point ahead. They were even down against Brighton, and you know what? It was fun for literally that 1 minute, but there wasn't really any doubt. We're can City come back against Brighton? Of course City can come back against Brighton. That's what's going to happen here. We all know it, but we're just going to indulge ourselves for as long as Brighton will hold out and allow us, which was not very long. When you look at the 2 seasons back to back, and even if you're judging a single season great side, you think of the Invincibles at Arsenal. How many points did they get? 90. With their unbeaten season, City got 100 last season, 98 this season. So they're statistically better. They look better on the field. They look set to dominate for years. It doesn't look like any other team can come close to them, or teams are pulling away from them. Liverpool, of course, came within a point, but can Liverpool repeat that? Do they have the squad depth of City? I don't think so. So it's at the stage where it's yeah, I think so. And as much as it pains me to say that as a Man United fan, United will always be the dominant side of the Premier League era in general, and you can't take that away from us. But at the same time, in terms of a case-by-case basis, I don't think United had a squad as dominant as as Guardiola's City, and that's just fact. That's just born out of fact at this stage, unfortunately. So we shall see if it will continue on a season by season. We may be looking at a dynasty here, and shit luck for the Scouts and London clubs as well, because it's the first dynasty of the Premier League era, Man United; the second dynasty, Manchester City. There's something in the water down there. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, in the Championship, Leeds inexplicably left the playoffs behind them when they flatlined against Derby in the second half of their playoff semi-final to concede 4 goals to Frank Lampard's side. Unfortunately, they also themselves flopped at Wembley as Aston Villa returned to the Premier League. Are you happy to have the villains back, or would you prefer to see Bielsa or Lampard get a crack?
I'd like all of them. There's no bad option here. I think Lampard might get a crack. Like he's in talks now for the Chelsea job. If Sarri does indeed leave, which I wouldn't blame him because he's had an awful time of it in his first year of English football. Like done quite well, finished third in the Premier League, Carabao Cup final, and won the Europa League last night dominantly against Arsenal. But I think he may leave just because of the fucking stress and hassle that he had to endure, had to walk off training during the week. So I think Lampard might get a crack at that. Bielsa would have been great. I hope that we still get it. I feel good about Leeds. I think they're at the stage where, like, yes, they've done a Leeds again, but the problem, like, they can arrest the problems and they have the right man in Marcelo Bielsa. So I think we will see it. Villa deserve to be in the Premier League, though. They are a Premier League quality side. They performed the best. They confounded your expectations before the playoffs, saying that the form side heading into the playoffs don't usually do well, and that's a credit to them. That's not a criticism of your assessment. You're right in what you say, but it's a credit to them. Credit to John Terry as well. I think as well, if we're talking to interested managers, it's going under the radar. John Terry's back in the Premier League. Shit's going to happen. And how unfair is it as well that Lampard is being touted for the Chelsea job instead of John Terry, the guy who just beat him in the playoff final, possibly an even bigger Chelsea legend than him. I know John Terry isn't likely to leave, but at the same time, it's just I've got a fear from a bit. Happy to see Villa back in. They deserve to be in the Premier League. Would have perhaps been more interesting with Leeds, but like I think Villa are well equipped to stay up, and they deserve to be there. So I'm happy enough with the outcome.
Yeah, look, we all would love Leeds, and next season, if someone would offer me nice odds on it now, I'd put a fiver on Leeds to completely storm that division and win it. Because what tends to happen is when you look out in the playoffs, when you're a side that should win and something happens where it just completely goes awry for no apparent reason, then the sides, particularly in League One as well, I don't know, it's different, but it's the same enough playoff situation. They tend to come out next season as a wounded animal and just completely respond and just destroy the league. And the only example recently that I can give is, again, my own side, Reading, 2011 playoff final, brilliant win over Cardiff in the semis, superb, into Wembley for the first time, better side, lost 4-2 to Swansea, Scott Sinclair hat-trick, 2 penalties. And it's just like, what the hell happened there? Year after, looking okay, 6th at Christmas, took 42 points in the second half of the season to win the league, and it was just like, right, this is something. And I can see Leeds, particularly in Bielsa. Bielsa will be hurt by that because he's prided himself on his team being fighters, and they just completely flatlined. Aston Villa, they are a Premier League club. They were a Premier League club for me growing up, and like they didn't belong in the Championship. There's a lot of sides like that around, but for me, like if you're talking about if you can make a perfect 20-team Premier League. Yeah. Villa are in there. Leeds are in there.
Blackburn.
Probably Sheffield Wednesday in there as well. Blackburn,
former
yes.
Premier League winners.
Yeah, like just those old school kind of teams.
Yeah.
Derby not included there. Nice club. My father's club growing up for some apparent reason. A farmer in North Cork randomly latched onto Derby. No idea why. But yeah, like Derby's like this the same old problems. 8th playoff appearance in the last 10 years, and they still haven't gone up once. Ugh. So that's more club mentality as opposed to Lampard. Lampard will get his crack at the Premier League eventually. I don't know if it'll be next season with Chelsea. He will eventually manage Chelsea, I'm sure of that. But yeah, happy to have Villa back. Expecting Leeds to rejoin them pretty soon.
A good storyline as well. It's great to see young managers actually be successful. We're so used to seeing like former Man United legends fail that we're like, oh, if you're just retired, you're not going to do well. Well, Terry and Lampard proven that like maybe we all thought like United players under Ferguson, that's what makes them great managers. Maybe it's actually Jose Mourinho, and learning and suckling at the teat of Mourinho is what the secret sauce is in management. Who knows?
Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, this is it. So anyway, moving on to rugby. Leinster responded to a humbling defeat by Saracens in the Heineken Cup final with wins over Munster and Glasgow to retain their Pro 14 trophy. But how should they feel after the end of that season?
Disappointed. There's no two ways about it. The Pro 14, yes, it's great. It's a trophy. it's not the one that anyone really wants. It's like we were talking about a few weeks ago in the GAA. If you had offered Mayo fans right league or championship, what you want more, they would have gone, yeah, championship. Oh, well, we won the league, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. And that Heineken Cup final defeat to Saracens was bad by Leinster. They didn't learn from what Munster did in the semi at all. They had the opportunity to pin them back in at half time and take the lead, and for some reason decided to try and go for another try. Got caught out. Saracens leveled the game with the clock in the red. Unless it didn't score again, it was just, as I said, humbling was the right word to do. It was just like it was Leo Cullen not knowing what to do tactically in front of a man who had already won a Champions Cup last year and a Pro 14 the year before as well. They did the double last year, of course, and then Pro 14, they won another trophy. Well done to them, but the bread and butter of Northern Hemisphere rugby is the European Cup, and Saracens are looking like, you want to talk about a dynasty in the Premier League. Saracens are looking very, very good in Europe.
For me, the way I assess this is it's not over, and this is a great pro wrestling storyline. Saracens are the heels of Europe. They're the guys who always win everything, and then if you didn't believe that, they dominate the Premiership, they dominate Europe as well. They, like, even the way they win is unsatisfactory. A bit of the Jericho back elbow towards that. But also, if you didn't believe all that, Vinny Vunipola came out and said what he had to say, and confirmed that they're the bad guys, and this is the start of the big feud between Leinster and Saracens. And what happens in a feud? If the good guy wins the first fight, it's not a feud. The feud is over. The good guys are going to come back next season. I hope we get, I'm not saying Leinster are going to win because of pro wrestling logic, but I think they're the two dominant forces in European rugby. It's not the last time they're going to meet at this stage, and I think Leinster have enough about them to rebuild. It was an even looking contest in the way in. It was just Leinster performed poorly on the day, but they have enough to beat Saracens. We've seen it before. We saw it last year in the Heineken Cup. So they have enough in them to beat Saracens. I think we're looking at a great feud, though. One of the great sporting feuds. So I'm more optimistic on that end.
There's a lot of retirements coming for Leinster in the next couple of years as well. So it'll be interesting to see. Yes, they've got some unbelievable talent coming through. James Ryan, James Lowe, Ross Byrne, Adam Byrne. But you're losing your next 2-3 years. You're losing Sexton, Toner, O'Brien, probably Furlong. So you're looking at it as in, okay, next generation, it's just a wheel will keep turning. Anyway,
have we not said that about Leinster and Ireland though before? We've been here twice or three times now, where it's over. All the good talent's gone. We have to accept it. You know what? They just have a good system, and they can keep providing this talent. They can continue to do it. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt there.
Okay, with Ireland, I'll say yes. With Leinster, we've seen some down years before the last couple of years. They went 6 years without a European trophy, if I'm not mistaken. So, look, it might be, I do expect them to be at the top 10 once again in 5 or 6 years when they do bring all this talent through properly and they're all established. But once that, there needs to be that gap between the two where they have to rebuild. But, look, it's rugby. It'll be fine. Yeah. The French Open got underway earlier this week with the King of Clay, Rafa Nadal, chasing his 8th title of the decade. While Angelique Kerber and Caroline Wozniacki have already fallen in the women's draw. But who will reign in Roland Garros? You're a big tennis guy.
Yeah, with the French Open is my favourite tennis major, and the reason is because Clay. It's just a completely mind fuck that totally throws everyone off, and the great players are beatable on that day, so it's always exciting. And the men's as well, you have to look at Rafa Nadal. He is just, to beat a man, you got to beat the man, and Rafa is still the man on clay. He's coasting through in the early rounds. He's defending champion. For me though, I think he may have a strong challenger here. Roger Federer he could face in the semi-finals. I don't think he's going to face them. I'm looking at Stefanos Tsitsipas, the 20-year-old Greek who he could meet in the semi-finals. They're in opposite ends of the draw. I think whoever wins that is going to play Djokovic in the final, but I think it's up for grabs because Clay is the X-factor. We saw how long it took Djokovic to win at the French Open, for example. Tsitsipas, his case is he beat Federer. If that's not the first time you're hearing his name, he beat Federer in the Australian Open in January, and he also beat Nadal on clay in Madrid in the build-up to this tournament. So that's what makes it interesting for me. He's shown he can beat Nadal on clay, and he's seems to be the next rising star in tennis before. I'd always said that a few times. I'd love to see Gael Monfils as well. He's a fantastic, enigmatic player, but on his day, the best athlete. I was watching Eurosport analysis comparing him to Michael Jordan the other day in terms of his athletic prowess. And when you watch some of the stuff he does on clay, on the court, he's absolutely fantastic. So I'd love to see him get a crack at it. I don't know. He's young and he finds it difficult to put it together over the course of a tournament. He's more likely to have one or two great matches. But I'd love to see him win it in his home soil. In terms of the women's one, it's very open, very interesting. Naomi Osaka, the new star of tennis, the problem with it is she's inexperienced on clay. She just hasn't played that much on clay. She's so young, and we forget that. She struggled through her first round match. It was a very close call for her to advance. So I don't think she's going to win here. Serena Williams is back. However, the thing is, before the French Open, she's only played 9 singles matches all year in 2019. So she's still a bit rusty in clay. It's a great equaliser. So for me, I'm looking at two perhaps unknown names. I'm looking at Simona Halep, who won her first major last year, capable of being the best player in the world on the day when Serena's not on her best day. So she's someone who could do it. Or Karolina Pliskova as well, the Czech. She won in Rome. She was a semi-finalist in Roland Garros a couple of years ago. And I'm also keeping one eye on the Brit, Joanna Conte, who lost to Pliskova in the Rome final. So she can play on clay as well, and she's playing well so far. So an interesting one. The women's as well, more for the purists, because you don't necessarily have that name value beyond Osaka and Williams. But if it's wide open, whereas the men you're looking at Rafa or the field. Anyway, yeah, I can't wait. I'm really excited. That's what's getting me through that in the NBA finals without football or that much sport on.
Yeah, look, I mean, Nadal, as you say, he got to beat the man. Nadal owns the clay court, so I'd look at him even if he's playing off form in the first few rounds, he has the ability to just go, right, this is my yard. Rafa, Roman Reigns, Nadal. In terms of the women, yeah, look, Halep, didn't she win it last year? I want to say. Yep. Yeah, I'm liking to look at Sloane Stephens as well. First 2 rounds she's done all right, but there's another one who's kind of like a former great. I mean, Sam Stosur's in the draw. She's won her first round kind of easily. She's winning in a comfortable in the second round. We're former world number 4. More and as you say, the women is always more open. There is always there's more possibility of someone who's coming from nowhere. You saw Naomi Osaka do it, the US Open.
Yep.
And even Sloane Stephens, when she won the US Open the year before that, it was one of them that come from nowhere. Yes, maybe not the French Open, but there is more of an opportunity. And so she has the ability. She's been there before. Not in France. She was a finalist previously, I think, but she's won the Flushing medals as well. So it's a big name. It's someone who could cause damage. I can't pick a winner from that one, though. So I'll go Nadal, and I'd like to be surprised in the women's.
Yeah, and I think we will be. Last but not least, the nation's favourite tragic comedy unfolding again was how Joe Brolly described Mayo's shock loss to Roscommon in the Connacht semi-final last weekend, leaving them needing 3 qualifiers to get even just into the Super 8. Is this the end of the Mayo for Sam dream this year after it all looked so promising when they won the Alliance League?
Oh, Mayo. It is Joe Brolly nailed it, really. It is just a tragic comedy. You're like, oh, come on, not again. Last year, it is a bit different this year. They won't have the whole Newbridge or Nowhere scandal. They won't have questionable match. They have James Horan, who knows how to go through the qualifiers. He knows how to win through. He knows how to get them on a run. He's done it before. I think, in terms of getting to the Super 8s, they should be okay based off the round 1 qualifier draw. There's no real nasty one. One of the Ulster sides, Monaghan against Fermanagh, will be taken out by each other. That's the highlight of the round 1 qualifier draw. So they should be all right in a landing spot with the rest of them. They have the ability, they have the players, they have the squad. They just need luck now, and they haven't really had any luck the last few years. So knowing them, they'll probably just for some inexplicable reason, Meath will beat Dublin in the Leicester final, and suddenly Dublin will get drawn against Mayo, and that'll just be the end of it. Or Kerry will lose to Clare this weekend in Munster, and somehow Kerry will get to come against Mayo. I like Mayo. I really, really want them to do well, and tipped them beforehand as getting to the All-Ireland final. I'm not going to say that they won't do that. I think they'll get to the Super 8s, but it's just made themselves an awful lot trickier this year.
Have we not learned? The past 3 years now, it's tradition at this stage. Mayo losing Connacht, and then they do all right because they know how to play the qualifiers. I'm not as down on Mayo's thoughts. I don't think we can judge Mayo's All-Ireland credentials based on this. They've got key players missing, and they will have them coming back for the qualifier. So, and we've seen them do this time and time again over the past 3 years. I don't think they've been in the Connacht final for the past 3 years. So this is where they lose. Correct. And this is what they do. And then they come back and they contend. So I'm not overreacting to this. I like Darragh O'Shea's assessment of it in the Irish Times this week. He spoke about they did everything right. They did everything right. If you're looking at it and viewing it with kind of a Moneyball football kind of stance, where it's like expected goals, expected chances, but did they get the rub of the green? They just never recovered from 2 early goals against Roscommon, and that's what happened. They got caught, and it's entertaining and it's great fodder for shows like this. But in real terms, they know how to do this. They literally do it every year now. So I'm not down on their chances. I think we will see them back, and I think we get to judge them as Mayo again. But like Joe Brody said, it's a nation's favourite tragic comedy, and it's a bit funny at this stage. And it's just another storyline. It keeps, like, with the hurling and the round robin format they're doing, the hurling is always interesting now this time. With the football, until we get to the championship finals and until we get to the Super 8s, you need something. So we're just biting onto this, despite the fact that we've seen it time and time again, and that it's proven time and time again to be completely irrelevant to the grander scale. So we shall see. Anyway, guys, that is the news for the week. Now, all sights are pointed towards Madrid, because this is a Champions League final, and after the craziest season we've seen in recent history in the Champions League, it's the second best team in England against the fourth best team in England to decide who the best team in Europe is. I fucking hate the Champions League format sometimes. It really messes with my OCD. But Liverpool Spurs, here's the thing. It's also a rematch of one of the games of the season. So we're promised an entertaining game of ball on Saturday night. And we're going to try, like I said at the top of the show, add logic to the insanity of it all and try break down the match and see if we can pick a winner in this. Because very evenly matched, there's a lot to take into account. So we're going to try break it down in terms of the big things that matter. We'll start with the narrative of it. And in the weirdest season of Champions League football in recent memory, can we see one last shock is the big question going into this for me. Spurs have somehow spurred their way through. It seems sheer randomness and refusal to lose has got them here, while Liverpool look to cap off a fantastic but ultimately trophyless season by taking home the biggest goal in them all. But can Jurgen Klopp arrest his awful record in cup finals to do so? The German has won 1 in 7 finals as a manager, his first and last the German cup final in 2012. He enters his 4th European final, 3rd in the Champions League with a 100% loss record. So the question we have to ask here is it all just bad luck, or does Klopp choke under pressure? And will Pochettino be able to better his winning record, to better Klopp's winning record in his very first final?
Like, I think Jurgen Klopp needs this win more than Liverpool. Because, look, okay, the first year he with Liverpool, he got to the Europa League final with an average side. Weren't really the favourites going into it, and were found out naturally by Sevilla there. Now, a bit heavy enough defeat, but you look, it was a surplus. It was a bonus for him to get there in his first year. Then he got to the final last year, again, maybe a bit lucky, better side, much better side, and found out against a better side in the final. This is the first one where they're going to go in as favourites, and they're going to be like the ones who expect to win because of how they finished the league season. It must be a mental thing for Klopp now if he doesn't win this, because even go back to the Bayern and Dortmund final in Wembley, you were like, okay, they're actually evenly matched sides. He's got a chance here. And he's like, that was tight enough. They went 1-0 down and then just undone late on. But I don't know what like Jurgen Klopp is like the Mayo he's the James Horan of the GAA and in the Champions League, because he just can't get it done in finals. And there's just some record there that he's like, okay, this is now a streak. Was he cursed by a witch on the side of a road in the western part of Germany in the 60s, and it just hasn't happened since? Pochettino, there's a brilliant piece with Miguel Delaney in the Independent this week. If you get a chance to go read about how his ignoring of the FA Cup and the EFL Cup, like where people are like, oh, just go get Spurs first major trophy, concentrate on them. He was like, no, look, we have the chance to win the Premier League, we have the chance to win the Champions League. I'm going to look at that. And Spurs fans were not happy with that, so most of them weren't. And then now he's justified because look where they are. They're in a European final when no one else is expecting me. This is the Liverpool of 3 years ago in the Europa final. So I don't think Spurs will be too bothered by a loss if it happens. Like, they can easily come out and win 3-0. They can easily come out and lose 3-0. I don't think they care too much if they don't win because they're in the Champions League final when they probably shouldn't be. No one would expect them to be at the start of the year. Whereas Liverpool, you're like, right, you've had your 2 losses. You've had your Europa League, you've had your Champions League last year. Now you spent 100 and something, 200 million to make yourself better. You're now back where you are. Have you improved? And now we're going to find out.
For me, it comes down to a psychological assessment of Jurgen Klopp, and we're trying to do this from far away, so we don't actually have insight into it. And it's a case of, if Liverpool go out and do what they did all season, they win. Like, they're the better side here. But it's a case of, does Jurgen Klopp start to believe the hype that is around his management? And what we've seen this season in Liverpool is there was no case of Liverpoolitis. We don't have a documented case of Liverpoolitis all season. Now, how dramatic would it be if it were to happen in the Champions League final? But he is correcting previous narratives that have existed in both Liverpool and in his managerial career. We expected them to flop at any stage. We're like, look at the Chelsea game. Look at the Chelsea game. Oh, they're going to let it slip. They didn't. They won convincingly. There you go. They did what needed to be done. So if that happens, and evidence has shown us that it has happened all season, then Liverpool win. It's as simple as that. If it comes down to who's the better of the two teams, the problem is evidence has also shown us the club does choke in finals. Like, there's no two ways about it. You look at that Sevilla game, they were 1-0 up. They absolutely bottled it. You look at the Madrid game as well. Like, it was a tough final. Like, the Bayern-Borussia Dortmund final, I don't read too much into it. Bayern were just a better side, and Dortmund gave a great accounting of themselves and did themselves proud. So I don't read too much into it. The Madrid final, it felt like it was there for the taking. Like, after they lost Mo Salah, the mess-ups with the keeper, obviously, as well, have to be taken into account. But it just felt like Liverpool just fell apart and just kind of reverted to type. So we've seen this happen. So I don't know. This is the great thing about this final and the fascinating thing. We don't know what side we're getting. But recency bias would lead me to believe that Klopp doesn't buy too much into media narrative and could get the job done. But it all comes down to essentially like how they got here and like what road have they taken and what can we glean from this Champions League? Because again, you look at the fact that Spurs are in this final and they're like completing that amazing comeback win over Ajax after getting absolutely humbled by Bournemouth at the weekend. So the Champions League and the Premier League exist in two very different worlds this season, and so trying to look and get some information from that. Spurs survived the group of death involving Inter and Barca, bouncing back after 2 opening losses to those sides. They beat Dortmund convincingly before shocking City with a late second leg goal in the game of the season, causing them to advance on away goals. Then it was onto that Ajax semi, losing the first leg 1-0 and needing to come from 2-0 down in the second with 3 goals to get here again on away goals. They're just getting in by the skin of their teeth. Liverpool had perhaps a less convincing group stage, though. Let's not let recency bias, let's forget that too. Similarly emerging from a group of death, not covered in glory. They had 3 losses against Paris Saint-Germain, Napoli and Red Star Belgrade. They got it together, though, considerably in the knockout stages, humbling Bayern in Munich. They rolled over Porto and then completed that epic comeback against Barca. So who's had the more impressive run-up? Who can say that in the Champions League they carry the psychological momentum going into this?
I've no idea about the momentum because of what happened in the semis, but in terms of the run-up, I am more impressed with Liverpool in the way that the way they performed in games. I mean, the performance against Munich away was just sensational. Okay, fair enough, Bayern had maybe one eye on the Bundesliga, but you can just counter that by saying, well, Liverpool were in the title race on Man City, so they had the exact same logic, and it was just complete done. Like, they went to Germany, just dominated them, just completely destroyed the Bundesliga champions. Possibly could have won by more than, wasn't 3-1 in the end, I think, in the Allianz. So that was impressive. They were rewarded with that, with just the Porto game, which again they just did the exact same as last year. No real changes there. Barca, the away leg, they looked lost without really. Yes, they had a chance to get in the away goal and would have made the subsequent comeback far less spectacular. But then the home performance, again, very similar to how they did in Bayern, just stamped on the throat and got what they needed to do. Spurs doing the opposite, winning ugly as the case may be. But again, you can go to Dortmund in the same logic as Liverpool against Bayern. They went and they stepped up. Like, they both lost the same number of games over 90 minutes in the run-up with 4. So stats are all level. Maybe goals scored are similar enough as well, I think, because of obviously Spurs scoring 3 away at Ajax when they needed to. So like stats, they're nearly level. Momentum, I can't sit here honestly and say, like, yeah, Liverpool late on they kept winning in the Premier League. I suppose that might tip it to their scale, where the Spurs kind of fell away in the Premier League. But I don't know, like, more impressive for me, Liverpool, just because of their performances. But like, credit to Spurs, they've dug it out and they're here on merit. Like,
Let's try look and then break it down based on the times that these teams met each other during the season in the head-to-head. The two sides' Premier League clashes both saw the exact same end result, 2-1 to Liverpool, but very, very different games. The late goal from Spurs in the first game in September made the result seem a bit respectable, but in reality the scoreline flattered them and Pill probably could have won by more. But there was another late goal in the return fixture. That seems to be a running thread in these games. You may remember it, actually. It was one of the best games of the season as the Spurs OG handed Liverpool that victory and saw their fans believe the Premier League was their destiny. Believe, lads, believe. How'd that work out? The reality of that game was very, very different, though, as it was Spurs who dominated and looked in the ascendancy, especially towards the end. And had Sissoko had any composure whatsoever in front of goal, they may have won too, as he skied that late chance, of course. But that's the league. This is the Champions League, and it's a random Champions League this season at that. Can we read too much into Liverpool doing the double here, or does this random Champions League throw logic and reason out the window?
no, yeah, definitely, it absolutely does. The league game, you always knew, right? If we lose this league game, we can get back at them the next time. I know the second one obviously they did the double, and like again the late own goal, but like, as you say, Spurs probably should have won that game. Whereas like this, you don't have a second chance here. It's the Champions League final. You won't be able to play these lads again until, well, I don't know, a pre-season friendly in Timbuktu in 4 weeks' time, but properly until about September, October, and by then your motivation, your squad might be different. So, like, this is a European final for, like, obviously Liverpool were here last year. Spurs haven't been in it since the 80s. So, like, this is a big thing for them. I think they'll be like, right, forget about the league. Pochettino, yeah, they might use, like, oh, look, we played well doing this, this, and this against them, but they might be expecting this, this, and this now. So, I think I'm not going to read enough into the double for Liverpool in the season, because, as I say, they were very tight games. They could have gone either way with one kick of the ball. So I don't think we can. And the Champions League just brings up random performances. Like, no one would have predicted Lars Karius fumbling 2 goals into the net last year. Well, maybe someone did because it's Lars Karius, but not enough would have gone, you know what, Lars Karius, he's going to have an absolute shit show. Everyone else for Liverpool will do fine. He's going to cost them Champions League. So there is just something like that.
I don't think you can read too much into the results. I agree with that. I think you can read into the performances. I think you can read a lot into the nature of the game. So what happened specifically the most recent game? We know now Spurs can play Liverpool, that we have to treat these two sides as equal, regardless of their form, regardless of their performance over a season-long period. I think Liverpool have to respect Spurs, and they have to respect the fact that Spurs can, on their day, have their number. That was a pressure game for Liverpool. Look at the situation they were going into as well. They're going into it knowing they have to win to stay alive in the Premier League. Anything less is an absolute devastating result. And Spurs went and played them off the park. But also what you have to take into account from that game is who actually won. Liverpool managed to get it done. That counts a lot too. Not in terms of like the result. I'm not saying Liverpool are the better side because they won, but just the ability to score. Where Spurs had an opportunity, they absolutely fluffed it. Where Liverpool had an opportunity when they weren't the better side, they made that count. And that's perhaps a key difference in the two this season. So I'm going to put significance into that, but I'm also going to temper it by saying you can't read too much into the results. So let's look at the management side of things, the management battle, and it's all about experience at this level, but how to read that experience is the key here, because we spoke about it a bit earlier. Klopp, he's in his 3rd Champions League and 4th European final. Pochettino is first, but Klopp, like we said, has yet to win one of those. So can we say he knows how to play at this level definitively, which is what you kind of like, why you'd look at experience as a key point. Does that give Pochettino and Spurs a wildcard effect? If you're familiar with the nobody believes in us theory by Bill Simmons, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's where a manager ends up going on a run. It happens a lot in the NFL playoffs, for example, where a manager just ends up going on a run because he's saying to his team, nobody thinks we're going to do this. Everyone's doubting you. No one thinks you're better than them, and they just use that to spur them on, pun not intended, and motivate them in big games. And that's what's happening with Spurs. That's exactly what's happening here. here. There's no other logic or reason towards it. It's just Pochettino is a good man motivator over 90 minutes. So how does Klopp defend against complacency coming into a European night like this in rarefied air of being the favourites? That's the thing with Liverpool and with Klopp. In any situation he's been in, like you could say the Sevilla one, and that's what tells us, like, how did he react the last time he was the favourite? They went 1-0 up, they absolutely bottled it. Every other time hasn't been the favourites. This is a new dynamic for Klopp where they're the clear favourites, they're expected to win, their fans will settle for nothing less because they need trophies to validate this amazing season. So, the question becomes, does Klopp's experience here help him or hamper him?
Look, as you say, he's been here before. A lot. Pochettino hasn't. But the thing with the Champions League, and particularly over the last decade or so, you don't really need much European experience to become a Champions League winning manager. I'm thinking Roberto Di Matteo for Chelsea in 2012. You're talking even Mourinho the first time at Porto. You would have gone, all right, who's that? Benitez the year after that with Liverpool, and you're like, really, all these people? I mean, okay, I mean, Di Matteo beat one of the most experienced German managers ever. With Bayern in 2012. His name is after escaping me now.
Your points.
What's his name? There you go. A really experienced manager who's been there, done that a long time. Well, a lot, maybe not in Europe. I can't remember if he's got one or not. But Zidane, the first year, I know he's won it 2 years since, and you're like, well, he hasn't been here before. I know he's with Real Madrid, but he's he hasn't gone. So Pochettino, I think Pochettino holds the advantage in that sense because, as you say, no one's believing in him, and the Champions League is a place where weird things like that happen. Klopp, he's got the reputation already. He's been talked down by Liverpool fans of being a bottler this season because of what they've done in the league. Whereas now you're like, okay, it's all well and good, but this great Liverpool side who's got 97 points, who's blitzed all around them, who's got to 3 European finals in the last 4 years and haven't performed in any of them. If that happens on Saturday, the pressure's all on Klopp for me. And I think, as you say, he's been talking it down a lot, but I'd say inside his head, he's like, I've got to start winning one of these. I've got to start proving it somewhere. Because he'll get away with it, Liverpool fans, because they absolutely love him. But in terms of the wider spectrum of football, the wider media will read into that and go, geez, another lost final for Jurgen Klopp, another lackluster performance on the other side where he went in as favourite and couldn't get the job done. So his experience, he's been here before, but that hasn't helped him before. As you say, his only final that he's won was his very first one. So I think it'll hamper him somewhat, I'd say, but it's all up to him as to how he uses that experience.
Is there not a very feasible world that we can all picture where on Saturday night, the end story that we're all discussing is Pochettino, rejected by United, went out and won the Champions League in response. Klopp completed a historically amazing season for Liverpool, but went away with no trophies. Is that not the most Pochettino and Jurgen Klopp storyline available given the information we have? I'm just putting it out there. That I could totally see that being the storyline that we take away with it. So whatever happens, United fans are left absolutely sick though. As a United fan, I'm like, oh shit, there's no good result here.
Pay him off. Pay him off and go after Poch.
Yeah, this is it. So I don't know. We shall see. But I could absolutely see that happening. It's a very interesting narrative. Yeah. If the Champions League is for lols and look at the semi-finals, sometimes it is. Then that's the funniest storyline we could get from this. But it's not played out by storylines. It's not played out by media narratives. It's played out by the players of the pitch. So let's look at the team news. Naby Keita is the only injury worry Klopp will have to contend with this Saturday, leaving him with a relatively clean slate of players to select from. Spurs were, of course, boosted by the return of Harry Kane to full training, but it's been an up and down year for Kane following his heroics with England in the last World Cup, seeing him return to action not fully rested, never looking fully fit or comfortable, and then his last return from injury, coincidentally or not, saw the dip, saw Spurs basically go from Premier League contenders and genuine title winners. Like, they were in the conversation. Let's not forget, Spurs and Chelsea were very much part of that conversation until January, February, to nearly blowing the top four. That all happened while Kane was fit and available. Remember that when he went out, Son Heung-min stepped up and was absolutely crucial for them. So that begs the question that Kane all right, he's available. He has to play. He's Spurs' best player. But then, what does Pochettino do? Does he sack Son Heung-min, who's probably been Spurs' best player this season? Not sack him. Does he drop him for this? Or does he drop Lucas Moura up front, who scored the hat-trick that got Spurs here to begin with? He has to pick one. Spurs don't play 4-3-3 like Liverpool do. He has to select one. So that's one question. And will there, the problem is, this is where it kind of swings back to Liverpool. Will the reintegration of Kane, will that risk upsetting Spurs and causing them to be off balance because they've now got used to being without him and they've succeeded without him, and one of the players they're going to have to drop, regardless of who it is going to be one of the people that got them there?
I don't think there's any case for emotion or sentimentality in a Champions League final, so I don't think Pochettino will have any qualms about dropping Lucas Moura. I don't think Lucas Moura will be angry at Pochettino if he is left out. Yes, he got them there with a magnificent hat-trick in a most dramatic style, but he's a squad player. He's mostly been a squad player all year. Kane, as you mentioned, if he's fit, he has to play. And there is a difference maybe for me because they've had 3 weeks rest between their last game and this. So you know that they've been training with Kane. You know they've been working for those 3 weeks with Kane as a lead attacker, I would imagine. If he hasn't, then I'd have questions. But no, I think Kane is he's that kind of player who can grab you a goal from nothing. He can do nothing for 89 minutes. Yes, in that blip in form when they were playing week on week, he wasn't able to do any of that, and it's what maybe cost Spurs a chance at the Premier League. But in this one, again, it's a one-off game. They've had time to prepare for this. They've had time to go through all the tactics they could use for him and what will happen if he is fit, if he isn't fit, if he's if they suddenly have a drop in form with him in the side, do they push Son higher up? They will know, they will have an ability for every situation. Whereas Liverpool, the exact same. They just keep doing what they've done all year, and let's see if Spurs try and stop them because their tactics are perfect. Yeah, Keita will be a miss, particularly going forward. But look, they've got Wijnaldum, they've got Milner to cover backwards. They've got Henderson, who is. I'm still not comfortable with the idea of Jordan Henderson being Champions League with a captain, so I really hope that doesn't happen. But maybe if he picks up a sad injury, an unfortunate injury the day before, wouldn't be the worst thing. Just saying. I don't think it's a risk putting Kane back in. I think it's just weird. It's something that has to happen because he will grab you a goal from 25 yards when no one's expecting to, and he's a target as well. If Liverpool it's someone that could deal with Van Dijk and maybe give the space for maybe Dele Alli or Eriksen or Son Heung-min to run into that space because they'll be dealing with Kane. Whereas if you put up Virgil van Dijk against Lucas Moura, you're like, oh yeah, there's only one winner in that battle. So I think Kane has to start. I think he will start.
Yeah, but you're gonna do the exact same tactic. You're not putting Kane on Van Dijk and then Son on Matip. And then if Moura plays, you're putting Moura on Van Dijk for some reason. You're using the same tactic with whoever plays. I don't know. I don't think it's a done deal that Son starts. Son's had a poor finish to the season, so I don't know. I think Moura could get the nod here, but it's an interesting one. He's the guy who got them there. He's the guy who's in form in Europe. He's the guy who knows how to play these big occasions. And it's not that it's a sentimental pick. It's that it's just the logical pick. In terms of if you're judging based on form here, Lucas Moura finished the season stronger, even though Son Heung-min had a better season. Son is the sentimental pick here. I don't think it's a doubt that Kane is going to play. That's nailed on. But the question is it going to be difficult to reintegrate him? And here's the ugly truth that many in Spurs don't want you to know, but many in our prediction league will know. Kane's been dodgy all year. There are people when Kane starts, they put him as their anytime goal scorer. And he let you down a lot this season. And it's just one of those things. He's not playing at optimal form. He's still recovering from the World Cup last year. He's never got time off since playing that, where they got to the semi-final. So he got less recovery time on the back end of that. So he's still been dealing with that. So it's a big deal, and it's something I think Spurs need to be conscious of. So since we're pretty much discussing it anyway, we'll get to the tactical battle now. Liverpool, they've no reason to deviate from the 4-3-3, which has served them so well all season, defending resolutely, then trying to absolutely destroy any sides they're playing on the break. Klopp's only selection headache is based around whether to start Giorgio Wijnaldum beside Henderson and Fabinho. I'd say Henderson and Fabinho are nailed on for this game as well, having played both. So it's Wijnaldum after the semi-final heroics, and the fact as well that he scored against Spurs earlier in the season. And I'm a big believer. I don't know how much Klopp puts into that, but I'm a big believer that the players know how to play certain teams. So Wijnaldum scoring against Spurs, is a big deal. Or do you go with the experience and poise of Liam Milner in a semi-final? That may be an indication to whether Klopp is ambitious or whether he's perhaps overthinking it, which is where, like, that one selection may be able to indicate us. For me, if he starts Milner, it's like he's overthinking this. He's being too loyal to Liam Milner now. He's worried. He's playing the safer option rather than the ambitious option he's seeing. He's approaching this game in a don't lose this manner rather than let's go out and fucking win this 4-0 manner, which is probably how Liverpool should perform it, because they probably are the better team on balance. So that's an interesting one. Spurs, on the other hand, are more flexible. They tend to fit the formation to suit the occasion. In the game against Liverpool, which is the one I'm looking at a lot, they dominated and did so by leaving 3 at the back, which is something Pochettino's done, favoured a lot later in the season, and overwhelming Liverpool with 5 in the middle. Of course, playing the 5-on-3, playing that advantage, with Sissoko dropping deep whenever he was needed. The benefit to Spurs is that in a cagey final where nobody wants to make a mistake and can surrender control early, they can give themselves options through the same starting 11 that they're almost definite to put out. Kieran Trippier will likely start at right back, I'd say in a 4-3-1-2. They won't want to concede early, so they're going to start with 4 at the back, but they can easily switch to 3, and they can push him forward onto right wing, move Sissoko back if need be, to play the 3-1-4-2 that served them well if they see vulnerability in Liverpool. If Liverpool don't come out firing, they're going to get a bit more ambitious as they go, and I'd say that's going to be the game plan that they will have planned for. The reality is, with Liverpool, you know what you're getting this season. That's not the issue. The problem is, as Barcelona found, stopping them from imposing their will if they want to. The question then becomes if they've actually had bad luck in finals, or if it brings something out of them that can pause that, and if Spurs can take advantage as underdogs. So how do you see the tactical battle playing out here?
The thing for me is that you mentioned it there, Pochettino can adapt, even mid-game, if he wants to. Whereas with Liverpool, we've seen at times when that initial tactic of, right, let's see if we give them to the front 3 and let them do their job. Like, they lost to Red Star pretty comfortably in the group stage. Same with Napoli. The first leg against Barcelona in the Nou Camp, they were awful. If teams can figure out how to stifle them for the first half hour, Liverpool panic. And yes, okay, the Barcelona second leg, it was just sheer, right, just keep going, get it, like, go with that tactic. Yes, they missed, like, missing 2 in the top 2 in the start 3, and it actually worked out better for them that was the way, because people weren't expecting it from Divock Origi. Whereas now you will be Salah, Mane, Firmino, and you're like, okay, what happens if it's plan B? What happens if Pochettino sets out his stall to completely just snipe Liverpool, like do Liverpool on it, let them come at you, and then get them on the counter? Because I don't think many teams have done that against Liverpool this year, and if they have, it has, like, it might have worked. I mean, like, I'm using the Red Star game as my go-to, because it came on and worked during the week when they were doing the big build-up on Sky Sports or whatever it was, or BT, whatever how it was, on the television. It was like, that game was, like, Liverpool had nothing in that game. And it was against the side they had, like, you were like, right, if Liverpool play anyway like they usually do, in the same tactic, they'll just easily win. They tried it, and they just couldn't do it because Red Star figured them out. So I don't know if Klopp can adapt in the middle of the game to that. I think his tactic will just be, okay, it's not working, let's keep going until it works. Whereas Pochettino, if he recognises, right, okay, look, this 4-3-1-2 or whatever it is, whatever starts with isn't working, he'll switch things around. He'll be able to adapt and go, right, you move this way, you switch with him, get the ball on the floor, pump it forward long, and just calm down. Like, yeah, look, Klopp, is he the better manager? Well, his record would suggest yes, because he's getting to these finals. But as I say, Pochettino, he hasn't had that experience yet. I see, just because of the amount of and the style of play and the amount of goals that they've scored, the tactic advantage just goes to Liverpool for me. But I can easily see Spurs coming and going, right, let's see what you do when we do this, and Klopp may not be able to deal with it. So it's a fascinating one to watch, especially when you think of the games during the year as well, where they've been tight as hell. So I can't wait for that. Like, it might be a horrific final, it might be a terrible 0-0, it could be an absolutely bonkers 4-4. It's just the way the team's been going.
Well, let's put our money where our mouth is now, because the Prediction League final takes place this week. Darren Alam is winning, Daz 1889 is winning currently by 30 plus points. So we're adding a twist into this. And this was always the plan, by the way. Don't worry, Daz, it's not a conspiracy against you. Jonathan Nolan is the only person who can overtake him at this stage. I'm in third, but I'm way back at this stage. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an absolute bonkers special for the Champions League final. Nearly 50 points up for grabs. So positions can completely change in the final game. Me and Dave want to play along. What we've been doing all season is we've been giving our predictions as soon as they come out of our mouth, whereas you guys have until an hour before the game on Saturday. As soon as the predictions come out of our mouth, they're locked in. We have to stick with them. We're going to do a lot of prop bets on this. That's why there's nearly 50 points on offer, just to make all aspects of the game more interesting. See if we can have late drama in the prediction league after Darren. I'd feel heartbroken if he did lose it at the death, but sure, look, it's way more fun and funny that way, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to start with the prop bets before getting to our actual prediction for the game. So this was suggested to us by Andy Mahan on Twitter, and it's an excellent suggestion. We're going to give 10 points if you can predict the exact minute of the first goal. So Dave, where do you see this landing?
I'm going to plump here, and I'll explain my reasoning later on within some of my other predictions, and I'm going to go for 63 minutes. Okay,
interesting. I think we're on similar reason. I see both teams coming out not wanting to lose in the first half and then having to loosen up in the second half. So I'm going to go for 55 minutes. Now, we're going to give 3 points away for over under 2.5 goals in this game. So yes or no, 3 points in it. Over or under, Dave?
Is this in the total game or 90 minutes?
90 minutes.
Under.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to go over. I think it's nailed on. 2.5 goals, so 3 goals or more. Yeah, I think over. We've seen that in the past 2 games with Liverpool and Spurs, 3 goals. So that's the simple logic there. Both teams to score, yes or no, 3 points in it. Yes or no, Dave?
Yes.
I'm going to go yes as well. Penalty given. No, you get 2 points. For yes, you get 5 points.
No penalties.
I don't think we've seen a penalty in the past few matches between these teams, so I'm going to go no as well. Red card given. No, 2 points. Yes, 5 points.
Here's the first outlier. Yes.
Oh, interesting. What's the logic? Or just hit and hope for the extra points?
Not even hitting up because, like as you have pointed out on many occasions in the last few shows, I'm bottom. I've no chance of coming anywhere near it. So it is a slight hit and hope, but I'm also I'm feeling there might be quite a lot and bit of niggly game in there. There will be fouls. It's just going to be accumulated. Like, it's not going to be a straight red. I say it'll be a second yellow, maybe an early one, like in the first 10 minutes for a crunch and tackle, and then late on with one of the teams pump it forward. It'll just be a deliberate foul. So that's my logic. Let's
get into the nitty-gritty of what we actually think is going to happen out on the field and what is going to swing this game. You have 3 points for an anytime assist.
Andy Robertson for Liverpool.
Okay, interesting. I am going to go for Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool. 15 assists this season, 12 in the Premier League, 3 in the Champions League. So, it's all there for him.
Robson 11 in the Premier League, 3 in the Cups. So, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Anytime goal scorer for 4 points.
Sadio Mane, his record in Europe is brilliant.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm going to go for Harry Kane. I do think he's going to score at some stage this game. Come at the hour, come at the man. He's my anytime. First goal scorer for 6 points.
Sadio Mane.
Yeah, well, look, you may as well keep it if you think it's going to happen. Yeah. But I think this gets to where we're going to discuss the game and how we see it actually breaking down. I'm going to go Mane anytime as well. I think I totally agree with your logic. He's been great in Europe. He's been the difference maker. It's him or Salah if you think Liverpool are more likely to score. And Mane has just been that bit better. Although, for the record, they both have the same amount of goals in Europe, both 4 goals. But Mane has just been a bit more consistent where Salah's tended to get it all in a bunch. So we're going to do these last 2 predictions together. We have correct score overall. That is at the end of regulation. 6 points, or correct outcome 90 minutes. All right. So, Dave, what do you think is going to happen in this game?
I think, and I'm using my beloved stats again and historical meetings in Champions League finals between 2 teams who know each other quite well. 4 of the last 5 finals between teams from the same country have gone to extra time. So you're thinking Real against Atletico twice. You're thinking Milan against Juventus in the 2000s. And there's another one in the United Chelsea 2008.
Yeah.
And the outlier in that, the fifth of the 5, firing against Dortmund in 2013, won in the 91st minute with a Robin goal. So it's going for extra time. These are always tight games. And it is, again, it could be between 2 teams who have blasted everyone to pieces. Real in the La Liga as well. like, yeah, they never really won it, but they were still battering teams. Atletico were doing their thing of just grinding out wins and doing this, and it's very similar to how Liverpool and Spurs are doing it. Bayern and Dortmund, again, similar enough. We were talking about it earlier. United and Chelsea in 2008, similar again. So I think it is going to be tight. I think it's not going to be one where he's gung ho, where it's going to be like, that's why I've gone under for the 2.5. I'm going to say that this finishes 1-1 in 90 minutes, because again, that's what most of the tight finals have done in extra time. So, like, I just think it's not going to, like, I think it's going to be an anomaly. This is going to be a game where you're expecting a lot more to happen than it actually does. I think Liverpool, as I said, do take the lead through Mane late on, or not late on, about 20 minutes to go, 30 minutes to go. Look, I could easily see it being a set piece as well. I could see it being Virgil van Dijk, but I've gone with Mane because of his record. And then I think as they try, I think Liverpool won't try and go for a second. I think Klopp will go, right, I have what I hold now. And that's where Spurs will start coming back into it. And they will, like, don't get me wrong, Spurs will create these chances and they will be able to break down Liverpool. We've seen it already this year. So maybe, I don't know who will be getting an equaliser. It might just be within the next 5 minutes. It might be in the last minute for a bit of drama. But I reckon we're getting extra time. And that's where I reckon Liverpool come into it again. That's where I reckon Liverpool take this, and that 15 minutes of Klopp will be able to go, right, calm everyone down. And just, like, we are the better side here. We have the better squad. Spurs bench, I don't fancy it really. Like, yeah, Mora is a good option to have. Son will be a good option to have. But I'm looking at Liverpool. I'm like, yeah, they've been there. They've been in this situation. And they'll be able to do it. So I'm going to go 2-1, 1-1 at full time, 2-1 after extra time to Liverpool. I think if there was nice odds on it, I'd go extra time nailed on, because it's just the one I've convinced myself during the week, and you're probably going to talk me out of it soon.
I have changed my pick as we analysed the game, and as I spoke about it and I ingested everything that I was actually saying and all the research I put in over the past week. I've changed my pick completely.
Okay.
Now, I always had a fair idea of how I saw the game, like, going, but, like, it was where the ball bounced, and that's what I've changed here. I think it's going to be cagey for the first. I think we're getting exactly the match you say for the first half. Then I think the floodgates are going to open. Because if we look at this year, and this has been probably the best year of football we have gotten in recent memory. If you look from the World Cup last year, where it's like, oh, it's been great so far, but we're probably going to get a shit final. And it wasn't. It was 4-2. It was fantastic. We're getting that time and time again. Europa League, 4-1 to Chelsea last night. The FA Cup, 6-0 to Man City. We're getting kind of the classic things that we want to get time and time again in football. The Champions League has been proof of this. Both of these teams are here because of this. So I am going to go with form. I think in the second half, the floodgates are going to open. And the logic behind that, I hear what you're saying, and yeah, it is a very convincing argument, and I could absolutely see what you're saying come true. That's why I think it's going to happen in the first half. But the thing is, these teams won't respect each other enough to make it as cagey as it can be. Bayern and Dortmund are both feared each other. They both respected each other. If you look at Man United and Chelsea, they both feared each other. Liverpool and Spurs do not fear each other. They will go at the other side if they need to, if they are called upon. They won't want to mess up, but once a goal goes in, they will go at the other side, hammer and tongs, because Spurs have nothing to lose here. They're not expected to win, so they can attack without any remorse. Liverpool have all the pressure on them. I think after 55 minutes, I think Sadio Mane opens the scoring. I think Spurs say, fuck it, and just loosen the valve. I think they switch up, and I think they play as they played in Anfield, and they go at them. I think we're going to get like goals in the last 10 minutes. I think we're going to get an absolute classic Champions League final. And in the end, I think we're getting the narrative that I spoke about earlier. I think people are going to walk away and they're going to say, wow,
no,
United really should have hired Pochettino. And wow, Jurgen Klopp, turns out he is a bottler in finals. I think this season, Liverpool's best season in recent memory, and this isn't bias speaking, this is, I genuinely talked myself into it in weighing up everything as we spoke. I think Liverpool's season, I was fully prepared to pick them when we started taping this show, but I think it ends in heartbreak. I think the best season they may ever have ends trophyless, because that's the Liverpool way. Spurs 3-2 in 90 minutes. Yeah, I've talked myself into it. I think we're getting it.
Look, as I said, you could have said that and I could have been convinced by it, but I mean, like, we don't know. That's why we're doing this. We just, like, we could get any kind of game, and then maybe it's the beauty of having two teams in the same league in it. Yeah, exactly. It's like we're like, oh, we have no idea what's going to happen, and I'm in work for it. I'm going to get a couple of drinks in because I'm in the office on my own because there's no paper on a Sunday. So I'm going to enjoy it. So I can't wait. Like if that happens, I'll be delighted because there'll be a lot to write about. If what I have wrote, like even if I predict, if that happens, that's still going to be all right. I just don't want to nil all and it goes to penalties. That'd be shite.
Yeah, and like that, we could also like easily get that, guys. If you want to play along and tell us what you think's going to happen, you could win if you get everything right. You could win the entire May contest for the prediction league. So and you can get a month subscription to Low Blows. Even if you haven't played it all this season, you can come in onto death and win this. That's how many points there are for grabs. Go on to the Paddy's New Yacht Twitter at Paddy's New Yacht and give your predictions. Now we're going to talk about the NBA Finals. This is what I've been looking forward to all week, and this is another one where I've been changing my pick all week. The more research I did, the more I flip-flopped. But I think I'm confident in what I'm saying. But who knows, I may just change it again as I'm discussing it all. The Toronto Raptors take on the Golden State Warriors. For those who don't follow the NBA, don't worry. We're going to give you a blagger's guide in how you can follow it, how you can even watch the games and appreciate everything that's happening in front of you. The NBA Finals are best of 7, so there's potentially 7 games. Toronto have home court advantage owing to their superior regular season record, meaning the first 2 games are going to be in Toronto. They're on Thursday night, tonight, and Sunday night. The next 2 are in Oakland, where Golden State are at home, next Wednesday and Friday. Then it switches back and forth for the final 3 games, the following Monday, Thursday, and Sunday if needed. The best way, if you're a beginner who doesn't follow basketball and you want to watch it and understand what's going on, because the problem I've found with when I'm trying to sell people on basketball is just it all happens so fast. They don't understand what's happening. They don't understand why it's happening. They like the back and forth to the fourth quarter, but they also have to stay up till around 4, in the evening to get to that stage, which they're not going to do. This is how you watch basketball if you're a beginner. On an average play, watch, say, 20% of what's happening on the ball, especially as they go down the court, and watch what's happening off the ball. Watch the players, like, they're either trying to fight to break free and create space for their other players to run through or get in space themselves, or they're trying to catch the ball and shoot, and you have the defense trying to adapt and switch to whatever the offense is doing and trying to stop them. So it's basically a game of chasing every single play. Then you'll get turnovers, then you get fast breaks where a player will like steal the ball and go up the court and score. You'll get blocks, you get steals, you get a dramatic kind of stuff's happening, but that's ultimately how to watch the average play of basketball. And if you do that, you'll get appreciation for everything that's going on, because it's a play-by-play basis, but you have so many plays in a quarter or a game. That's why you get them so high scoring. The storyline here, though, the Toronto Raptors come into their first NBA Finals ever. A rabid home crowd. The NBA has been growing and growing in Canada for the past few years, and the Toronto crowd are one of the best of them, and they have home court advantage. So you'll even know some of the crowd. Drake is Toronto's biggest fan. He's now been upgraded. That he's able to stand on the touchline. He was pictured at one stage giving Toronto coach Nick Nurse a massage during a particularly tense point in the game, and people are like, come on, we got to stop this Drake bollocks. But it does make it interesting, and the crowd are really likeable and really easy to get into. The reason they've got here is off the back of Kawhi Leonard, who's looking to take the Raptors to their first NBA championship. Kawhi Leonard is the guy, by the way, who stopped the LeBron James Miami Heat dream team, picking up the 2014 Finals MVP when he played for the San Antonio Spurs. He also had history with Golden State. When he was playing for the Spurs in the 2017 Western Conference Finals, he was dominating the Golden State Warriors. We were looking at saying, oh, the Golden State Warriors aren't the dynasty team that we thought they were, because Kawhi Leonard is owning them. Then in game 1 with the Spurs leading, he went down with an injury. He was out. Golden State swept the series. It was heartbreaking. He is coming back and getting a second crack at them now. Now that the East has opened up with LeBron James going to the LA Lakers, who are in absolute crisis of late, so aren't even in the playoffs, it's now possible for a new contender to take on the Golden State Warriors after it's been Golden State versus LeBron for the past few years. However, the thing is with Kawhi Leonard, he came to Toronto a bit against his will. He didn't seem happy to be here. He was traded by the San Antonio Spurs, and he didn't have a say in where he went. He was given a good package. They were given a good package. He was sitting out all of last season. He said he had a hamstring injury, but there were question marks over that, or whether he just didn't want to be in San Antonio anymore. He's one of these guys. He reminds me a lot of Paul Scholes in that he's quiet. He's unassuming. Paul Scholes when he played, rather than being a noisy easy. Oft wrong pundit. He's quiet. We don't know what he's thinking at any time, but he's also capable of being the best player in the world on his day. So he's very enigmatic. The thing is as well, he may leave here during the summer, especially if Toronto win. He may be like, I've done everything I can do, now I'm going off. Like, there's rumours of him signing with the LA Lakers, joining LeBron, the LA Clippers. He's from LA, so he'd love to go back home. So he may leave after all this. Just one season, come in, win the NBA Finals and leave. If he wins, it'll make it a historically good postseason for him, highlighting the highlight of which was the end of Game 7 against the Philadelphia 76ers. This is something out of a sports movie. It was absolutely phenomenal. The teams are equal in the last game of the series. Tension is ratcheted up. Kawhi Leonard catches the ball in the corner, goes for a three-pointer off balance. It bounces once, it bounces twice, it bounces 3 times, it bounces a 4th time. The clock has gone off a whole 2-3 seconds at this stage. Then it bounces in. Toronto go insane. They go through to the conference finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. He is averaging over 30 points, 8 rebounds and 3 assists. Here's how historical that is. The 3 players, even if you don't follow basketball, who've done this before him are all players you'll know. LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Shaquille O'Neal. They're the only players who have ever got those kind of stats while playing the most he's ever played, averaging 41 minutes against the Bucks, which is something that, for the record, the reigning MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, did only once all season. He scored over 30 points in 4 straight games against the Bucks, where they were 2-0 down to start the season, and basically Kawhi Leonard just says, nope, I'm going to win this one. And they won in 6. They swept the rest of the series. He'd become only the 3rd player ever after LeBron and Kareem to win Finals MVP under different teams if they were to win. Of course, the situation for Golden State, though, is an equally interesting narrative. They need to ask if they can do it while possibly not having Kevin Durant, who's out with a calf strain, and DeMarcus Cousins, who tore his quad early into the playoffs. Both have travelled to Toronto for games 1 and 2, but we don't know how healthy they are, and that is the big question. We're guessing, based on everything we hear from Kevin Durant, that won't be the case. If you don't know, Golden State basically won their first finals in 2015 off the back of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the Splash Brothers, and Draymond Green, who's like, Draymond Green is the Roy Keane of NBA basketball. He's the absolute badass, the shit talker, the tough guy, who's capable of being like a game-changing player on his day, but is always a factor. But they won off the back of those 3 lads. They lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the next finals, giving up a 3-1 lead, which had never been done in NBA Finals history. So they added Kevin Durant, who's one of the best players in the league, and which a lot of people weren't happy with, because it's like, right, you're after giving the best team the best player in the league. This is fucking ridiculous. Sure enough, Golden State went on to handily win the next 2 championships back to back. The problem is now Kevin Durant has gone down. Where that has gotten interesting is, since he's gone down, early on when Kevin Durant was fit, Golden State looked vulnerable. They lost 2 games against the LA Clippers, which nobody expected. They lost 2 games against the Houston Rockets, which nobody expected. They've won every game since Kevin Durant went down. In fact, if you look at the stats where they're playing Steph Curry and the lineup they're going to have to go in with at the start of these finals, they've won 31 of the past 32 games with Steph Curry playing and with Durant not. So the question becomes, are Golden State actually better with their original lineup than with Durant? And that's amazing, because he is undoubtedly the best player in the league. He's the best player on their team. But are they somehow better? Do they gel better as a team? Steph Curry seems to play better without him. He's looking for his first Finals MVP, which is just a weird anomaly, because Steph Curry is also one of the best players in the game. But they have to, if he's going to get that, and if they are to win their 4th Finals in 5 years, what they'll have to do is they'll have to do it the way they started. Steph Curry is averaging 35.8 points per game since Kevin Durant went down. And it's also another story here is that it's possibly the end of the Warriors dynasty, as win or lose, Kevin Durant is expected to leave during the summer, and also Klay Thompson, Steph Curry's splash brother, is also going to be a free agent. A lot of people expect him to re-sign, but worth considering in the will Klay re-sign conversation is he lost $30 million by being snubbed from the All-NBA team. And the reason he probably was snubbed from that is because he's the third best player on his own team, but he's also one of the best players in the league. So he's quiet, and he's not the kind of guy to make headlines himself, but also he is, anyone would look at that and say, I would have made 30 million if I was on my own team and the star of my own team, which he would be. And he probably would have made that money. So he's going to be asking. So for the Warriors, if you're looking at it on the court, even without Durant, they have so many offensive options. You have the dreaded Steph Curry, Draymond Green pick and roll. A pick and roll basically is where, if you're looking at the ball carrier, a person comes up behind the person who's defending them and creates space for him to go in. The ball carrier may then pass to that person who's in space because they've stifled the defense, or he may just choose to run around it. It is unbeatable. And here's the thing with Golden State. You don't know what they're going to do, because they're so good and so well coached that whatever option you come up with and whatever way you think you've countered them, they'll come up with something else. They're always 2 steps ahead of the opponents. Curry can heat up with threes. He can just make shots from anywhere. He's one of the best shooters in NBA history and one of the most entertaining things to watch, where he just you're not expecting anything to happen, and Curry just made 3 points and absolutely devastated your team. Klay Thompson is also a great 3-point shooter, and he can go off at any one moment. So that has to be considered. So the question becomes, can Toronto stop them? The thing is, we don't know. This is what makes this finals interesting. This is a completely new matchup. These two teams have played each other twice in the regular season, but they've never played each other with these players all involved. Steph Curry was injured for one of the games. Draymond Green was injured for one of the games. Kawhi Leonard was injured for one of the games. Toronto won both of those games, by the way, which is worth noting, but they were both before Christmas as well, so it doesn't weigh in too much. It's an 82-game season. Teams win and lose all the time. It's not the biggest deal if you lose during the regular season. We can't read too much into that. So we can look at how they match up one-on-one with the players in the court. Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, who came over with Kawhi from the San Antonio Spurs, have loads of experience defending against Golden State without Kevin Durant. And they also have loads of experience defending against Kevin Durant when he was with Oklahoma City. They're all conference rivals when the lads were with San Antonio. But both are going to take shifts on Curry, although you can't plan for defending Golden State because they're going to make you switch constantly. So whatever your plan A is, you're going to have to go up against plan B. So the question is, do you have players that are capable of doing so? Kawhi can do pretty much anything on defense. Danny Green has experience playing them, so they may be a decent matchup for them. And the Toronto defense as well has 5 NBA all-defense players on it. Here's to put into context how good the Toronto defense can be. When they played the Milwaukee Bucks, who had the best record in the NBA playoffs in the Eastern Conference Final, or they had the best record in the NBA regular season. When they played them in the Eastern Conference Finals, the Bucks went from having 113.5 points per 100 possessions in the regular season and near identical in the playoffs. Whereas the last 4 games against Toronto, they had 102.3. You're like, what the hell do I know? I don't know what that means. You're just throwing numbers at me. The difference between that is the best offense in the league to the worst offense in the league. That's the difference Toronto made. That's how good they can be on defense. This is going to be a battle as well where turnovers are key. So stopping, catching the ball, making steals, making blocks, and getting points on the turnover and the fast break. Toronto are really good at forcing turnovers. Golden State, not as good, because for as much options as they have, they're a bit arrogant. They can get a bit lazy on offense. They can assume that everything's going to fall into place. So Toronto have a good chance at winning the turnover battle here. As well, if you're looking at Toronto on offense, Kyle Lowry is a Toronto OG, finally getting his shot. He's one of these guys that's been playing with Toronto for years and keeping them in competition, but they needed a Kawhi Leonard to actually put them into contention. He also had question marks about him, whether he could do it in the playoffs, and he's performing now, the past series especially, so he's stepping up, so he's someone worth keeping an eye on. Well, they have young promising stars like Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, who may also see a chance to make a splash. Siakam played 80 games and became this season and became Toronto's number 2 scorer and an elite defender in the season. So he's someone that could step up. If he can win matchups with finals veteran Draymond Green, the aforementioned Roy Keane we spoke of, and get into a rhythm with threes, they have a shot. Fred VanVleet could be crucial as well. He's been heating up scoring wise to account for Danny Green, who's gone kind of cold with scoring, although Danny Green is also one of the best recent NBA finals scorers when it comes to hitting 3-pointers, so he could easily come back. back. If Toronto can hit a lot of threes are bigger than twos. It's as simple as that. They can score a lot on Golden State. They can keep in contention if they can keep things tight on defense. So this is a good matchup. And the thing with Fred VanVleet as well is he offers you options on defense. He keep Steph Curry in check when they met each other in December, limited him to 10 points in that game on like 3 for 12 on shooting. So that's a big deal if he can do so in the playoffs. In terms of how Golden State will try to defend Toronto, you're going to see Andre Iguodala, who was the Finals MVP the first year Golden State won, nicking it from Steph Curry. A lot of people believe controversially. He's going to be on Kawhi until Kevin Durant comes back, if he comes back during the finals, with Klay Thompson getting reps as well. Both are tough and will win some battles, but the key point to break down here is that they're probably not going to be enough to keep Kawhi in check. Kevin Durant can hang with Kawhi. The other two lads can do enough to limit him, but not completely eliminate his threat. So Kawhi will be able to do what he wants to do. So that's what you're looking at. They're the big storylines. That's what you're trying to keep an eye on in the NBA Finals starting tonight. The question is, who's going to win it? The question is, are the Warriors going to go out on their back? This is probably the last we're seeing of the Warriors in this dominant 5-year stage. Are they going to go out on their back? If this was a pro wrestling match, they would lose and the new king would be crowned. But this isn't wrestling. This is the NBA. And while I could absolutely see a world, it would not surprise me to see Toronto win this in 7 in a dramatic turnabout of fortunes where Golden State, they have won every game since Durant went out, but they haven't been winning spectacularly. They've been gritting out games and more just doing it. It's like a team which is winning 1-0 without their best players, but they continue to win 1-0. So they are vulnerable, they are beatable, and Toronto have a lot of the tools that would make them beatable. I could see that happening. The problem is, Toronto tend to start series slow. They went 2-0 down against the Milwaukee Bucks. They went 2-1 down against the Philadelphia 76ers. They cannot do that against the Golden State Warriors because the return of Kevin Durant is looming. And if Durant comes back, the Warriors win. The Warriors sweep the series when Durant comes back because they're just unbeatable and unplayable. They have too many options. So Toronto need to win tonight in Game 1. Or on Sunday in Game 2 to have a chance. I just don't see them winning tonight. Golden State winning 5 for me. And as heartbreaking as it is to say that, because we all want the Classic Finals, and there is a lot of things that are setting this up, they're the best. To beat a man, you got to beat the man. Golden State are the man. And unfortunately, I think, we're going to see another Golden State sweep. I think we're going to see this dynasty right off into the sunset happily. Next season, it gets interesting because a lot of free agents in the market. Kawhi could be gone. These two teams may not be back in the finals for the foreseeable future. So I hope they give it all. I hope we see a great series. I hope we see it go 7, but I'm picking Golden State in 5. Anyway, that's what I'm going to be keeping an eye on for the next few weeks. Kendo, what are you going to be keeping an eye on for the summer? We're not going to be here. So give us a brief guide to your sporting summer plans.
Yeah, look, it's a quiet year in air quotes. No Olympics. There was a Women's World Cup in the football, but Ireland aren't in it, so there's not that much interest. It's on RTE at least and TGR, so I'll be able to keep that on the television. And there's no European Championships either to hold over the major interest. But for me, there's still Wimbledon. There's the Europa League qualifiers, which I'll get to in a minute, and 2 more golf majors, as well as the ongoing will they, won't they love triangle between Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. I hope we get one of those major fights. I don't know if we will. But no, 2 big things for me. My favourite darts tournament is in July.
Yes.
World Match Play in Blackpool. And this year is really interesting because Michael Van Gerwen stamped his authority on the Premier League once more a few weeks ago. Not a ranking event, doesn't really matter in the order of merit, but he'll have his job on his hands to regain the World Match Play in July and look to complete the triple crown at darts again. He's already the Premier League champion, he's already the world champion. He went back-to-back with wins in Blackpool 15-16, but hasn't won since. He crashed out in round 1 last year to Jeffrey Deswan, something that I called, which I am absolutely still happy about. And the quarters the year before to Phil Taylor, and he's looking jaded. He lost in the Dutch Darts Open on the tour last weekend in his home turf to Ian White in the final.
Ooh.
And he's having a poor run on the Pro Tour. And now, in even worse news for him, there's more contenders than ever for the match play. You got big names, Cross, Gurney, Price and Anderson, can all do match play format. It's very similar to golf, it's legs and not sets. It's basically race to 8, race to 9, race to 16. It's what they play on the Pro Tour every weekend. And Van Gerwen hasn't been doing well on that, whereas these lads are. You got outsiders like Ian White, who's shown some form on the floor, and now he's starting to bring it to the TV. Nathan Aspinall won the UK Open in a similar format. Already this year, Adrian Lewis is back from back surgery. He's back in the top 16. And then you got two former BDO big hitters as well. You got Christopher Tasky, who's a former world match play champion. And more importantly, Glenn Durrant is in the PDC now. 3-time back-to-back BDO world champion. And already has 3 wins over Van Gerwen on the tour this year already. 2 of them have come in semi-finals, which is race to 8. And the opening round in a match play is race to 9. And we could see that. The cut-off date for the qualifiers is this day next month, so the 30th next month. And then we'll get the draw the day after. And we could easily see Michael Van Gerwen against Glenn Durrant in the first round. And that would be something special. I love the match play. It's so open. For me, though, my summers are always about, and will always be about, one thing. And that's the GAA. It takes up every weekend of my summer. Wouldn't have it any other way. Now, having said that, I went to my first live Gaelic football games in about a decade last weekend. I was at the doubleheader in Portlaoise with me and the Dubs are both in play. And my surmise of Gaelic football is it's still a bit shit, isn't it? It's just terrible compared to hurling. But look, the Super 8s, especially considering you've got a couple of grenades in the qualifiers like Mayo, Monaghan, Fermanagh, and you're going to drop in Donegal, Tyrone, Derry, probably Cork, who won't do much, but even still, Kildare, a couple of the improved Leinster sides. So there is potential in the qualifiers. The hurling is the hurling. Limerick, shocking against Cork in a humbling defeat last weekend. They themselves were thumped by Tip in the opening round, so Munster is seriously open. If Waterford managed to topple Limerick this weekend, you're looking at the All-Ireland champions pretty much being out of it, and that's the one thing you say about hurling you won't get in football. Whereas in Leinster, Davy Fitz is still being Davy Fitz at Wexford. The Dubs have started to sniff around for third spot behind the Kilkenny side who are motoring, and Galway who despite losing the most talented hurler of this generation are still flying around score-wise. You've got Clare and Tipperary leading the charge in Munster, Kilkenny, Galway and Leinster. But then you've got 2 or 3 more big names who are thereabouts. You're like, I just love hurling. So that's what I'm doing in the summer. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be a great summer hurling. Everything, the playing field is leveled and you just don't know what you're getting week to week. So yeah, exciting times. Look, it's the end of the football season, but there are reasons to be happy. And it's not the end of the football season completely. Keep in mind, because ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing the Champions League take place. We've seen all the domestic leagues end. But what we will have to hold on to deep in our hearts over the summer is that we will still see the greatest league in the world continue, the League of Ireland. Can you tell us what we've got to look forward to over the summer?
I'm going to call it now, and it's just as well that it's the greatest league in the world because it's going to be a slightly smaller scale version of what we saw with Man City and Liverpool because the top 2 are set. It's Man City-esque win race between Dundalk, again, under Vinnie Perth, who survived the blip from Stephen Kenny leaving, as Shamrock Rovers who have finally arrived. Here's a stat. Dundalk have had 11 penalties in the first 19 games, which is questionable at best. Stephen Kenny a few years ago gave out because Cork City managed to get 8 in their first 18, and now he's gone from Dundalk, and he's keeping fairly quiet about that one now. Both of them have European action to worry about, though, because Dundalk are seeded in the Champions League first round, while the Hoops are alongside St. Pat's in the unseeded part of the second round in the Europa, where my beloved Cork City side, despite being 8th in the table domestically at time of writing, are still seeded because we've been so good in Europe over the last years. But it's just a tease of, look at how good you used to be, and now you're 8th, and you've got a job to get back in here. So Dundalk and City will probably get winnable first-round ties, and then there's some potential of a massive name in the second round. Just going to run through some Europa ones. Roma, Espanyol, Wolves, Eintracht Frankfurt, who got to the Europa League semi-finals. They're in the second round. They're a possibility for Cork City, Shamrock Rovers, or St. Pat's. Dundalk, you've got Celtic, you've got Red Star Belgrade, you've got Dynamo Zagreb, you've got a couple others who will arrive in the second round, dropping in from the qualifiers this year. So there's a couple more coming in. You're like, okay, Karabag as well. They could end up playing in that stadium we saw last night in Baku in the Europa League final. Yeah. So you could have easily enough, win through the first round, get the money in, and then try and get a money spread in the second round. Imagine Roma coming to Turner's Cross. Or
probably go.
Eintracht Frankfurt arriving into Inchicore. Imagine Luka Jovic walking down past Tony's Chipper in Inchicore and it's like, oh, you're a long way from Kansas now, Luka. I mean, he's probably going to Real Madrid at this stage, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Going back to the domestic league, it's a dogfight already between Ollie's Harps and my beloved UCD in the bottom two, so you've already got those two kind of storylines. The race for Europe will heat up as well as the season wears on, because like everyone's kind of in, right, the top two are there, the bottom two are there. The rest of it's kind of a cluster at this stage. Just like you're waiting for some team to kind of pull away. While in the second tier, amazingly, the first division, we have a title race, we have a playoff race. 6 points separate the top 7 sides. As a reminder, there's only 10 sides in the first division halfway through the year, including my beloved Drogheda United, who are scoring all around them but just can't seem to stop conceding goals. Right now, you got Longford, Cabinteely, Drogheda and Shells, 4 points separating them. Bray and Galway are in there as well, and even Limerick, who are going bust. They're the asterisks you'll see later on. But until then, they're going to be fun to watch. So it's just a bit of everything. It's amazing. It's the best time. It's the best season to get on this hype train for years, because there is something for everyone.
See, guys, Paddy's new yacht may be going away for the summer, but that doesn't mean that it's all over. There's still plenty of sport to be keeping your eye on, so there's reasons to be positive. But that's
we'll
it.
We'll be tweeting about it as well.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, guys. That's it for the season. We are done. Good luck in the Prediction League. Enjoy the Champions League final. Enjoy the NBA finals. I'll be tweeting about that. I'll need people to stay up and tweet along with me to keep me awake, so please do so if you're around. You can watch all that, by the way, on Sky Sports. It's all on Sky. I forgot to mention that earlier on. So, and enjoy however you spend this sporting summer. I'm going to keep an eye on the Women's World Cup, if I'm being honest. Kim Hunter got me invested, so I think she's going to do really well in the Women's World Cup, still to go. But Kendo, thank you very much for your excellent analysis this season, and thank you guys for listening to the past year on Paddy's New Yacht. We hope we've won you some money, but more importantly, because we never guarantee that, we hope we've given you some entertaining radio. But until next year, for David Kent, I've been Rick Nash, and this has been Paddy's New Yacht.